and the whistle will be blown as the drivers are now making their way onto the track. One of the drivers that will be starting from the pole position on this grid, went through some trouble in his previous race. This is Sacha van Patbosch, the young Dutchman from Victory Lane, used to be competing for Fusion Motorsport. So Sacha van Patbosch and Freddie Lloyd side by side on the first row of the grid, followed by Cathal Clark, another driver who had a desperate result in his previous heat, in need of a good performance. He's going to have Alison Mackie by his side. Row number 3, Zach Green and Romeo Roussel, followed by Sandro Perez, Toby Gale, and row number 5, Louis Cumming and Dre Brown.
Row number 6, Joseph Smith and Jon Helder. They go from that one running at the top 12. Alfred Donker and Jean-Paul Carras round out row 7. Matteo Dravan and Morgan Moore, they go from row number 8. Isaac Phelps and Sam Woolley, they start from row 9 with Elaves and Henry Carter on row 10, rounding up the top 20. The final row, row 11, for the 22 drivers, Walter Berengu and Mika Hockendorf. Now, Walter Berengu had a P4 finish, I believe, in the first race, because, again, one of the 4 drivers in the previous race that we saw out there who did go for the wet tyres when that was definitely needed. And, yeah, real shake-up. So this is where we see these drivers come in. Crucially, though, they'll have fresher wet tyres on the inside line than the rest of them, because they won't have used them yet, will they? Because they went out in slicks earlier on. So this is the only benefit here that Sacha van Patbosch, Cathal Clark, Zach Green, Sandro Perez, all of that will have, is only because of that one. They didn't use their wets in their first race when they really needed to. So, yeah, they have a benefit still in this one.
They do have a benefit indeed, and hopefully they will be able to take full advantage of that benefit into the race. Previously in the junior class we had 2 races. The A versus B was won by Eva Dorenstein. As we said, what was more like a mayhem of a race. Most of the drivers going out in slicks as the rain was picking up on the way to the demi-grid. Nothing that most of the drivers could have done about it, but it was the moment for Eva Dorenstein to shine. And the young driver from the Falcon Racing team picking up a first ever win at this level. The race that followed was won on track by Alexis Constant, but those results are still pending by the look of it on the official website of the IAME Euro Series. And Constant still has 1 win under his name, still leading the classification as it stands with Svan on equal points, 0 so far. But Eva Dorenstein is further back as well, and Rocco Coronel 2 points each. As we're waiting for the drivers to make their way back onto the grid, led by Sacha van Patbosch on the left side of your picture with the Victory Lane colors. Cathal Clark, his teammate, just further back on his tail. Oh, you can see a bit of a traffic jam over there.
Yeah, again, the old classic drivers slowing down and drivers behind not seeing it. Bit of a concertina comes up. But looks like they're all sorted. They get onto the start-finish straight now. Sacha van Patbosch on the left, Freddie Lloyd on the right, into the tram lines. Green lights go out and away they go down in towards turn 1. Great start from the inside row as Van Bosch and Cathal Clark hold that inside line. Remember, the drivers on the outside have got slightly more used wet tyres as Freddie Lloyd gets swamped by the pack. I think he comes back through now into P2 now, which is good to see as they go up in towards turn number 2. One kart going wide. It's one of the Fusion karts that's gone off the track. Believe that could have been... Not too sure, actually, who's gone off the track there, but it was a Fusion kart that did do that. Rest of the field goes through, and it's all good into the pinch point now of turn number 4, but everyone around it nice and clean.
Pretty good opening lap indeed for most of the drivers. Everybody on board as the rain has picked up by the look of it once again. So definitely not a good end of the morning for the drivers of the IAME Euro Series, having to really force the events through those conditions. A good job so far for Sacha van Patbosch. Freddie Lloyd just behind, going for the win, potentially the win, the lead at least as for now. But Freddie Lloyd did a good move on the inside, the Fusion Motorsport driver, and good job. And not only was he able to get past Sacha van Patbosch, but look at the distance already he put between himself and the Victory Lane driver, being having the support in this race, in this battle.
Oh, and a kart off. Who is that? It looks like a Croc promotion to me. It's a 34, and that is, well, unfortunate for
Sam Woolley. It is from Croc promotion, who was gesturing in the skies, imploring the gods, so why have you done that to me? Unfortunately, he's going to have a lot of positions to try to climb back. As I said before, Cathal Clark is giving a bit of support to his fellow teammate, but not for long, as we have Zach Green trying to make his way through from the outside perspective. It looked like he could actually make his way through, and turn number 4, he does, by the look of it. Not quite yet, actually, but he was very, very close indeed. Zach Green, he lost a bit of momentum as a result, I think, leaving Carl Clark on the attack on Sacha Van Bosch. Oh, and a contact between the number 12, James, this is Brown, and Phelps, 7 and 8 respectively. Not quite what you want to see for Joey Brown, who was trying to go around the inside, taking the advantage, but he went sliding a little bit. Always easier said than done to keep the racing line alive, because we said that, oh, why did he go touching the other driver? But those conditions are so slippery that sometimes it all goes down to half a meter, and you could easily actually slide on the outside and touch your opponent with no intention of doing it. Yeah,
indeed. So conditions continue to worsen here at Marienburg as the rain continues to fall down. As down the inside there goes Toby Gale. It's done on Kuman, and Kuman having to just hold that outside line. Does hold the outside line, but doesn't hold the position. So chop and change there. Rest of the field going through. Can you tell that the UK drivers are used to wet conditions?
I don't know what you mean, actually. Yes, there's a lot of them into the top 20 positions. How many British flags do we have here on this grid? A lot of them, more than half of the grid is from Britain, and indeed they're doing a great job in those conditions. Freddie Lloyd the first with more than 1 second now in front of Sacha Van Bosch. Let's have a look back at.
Oh, that was the moment. Oh, and that.
Turn number 2.
Yeah, it was the 21. That was Harrison Mackie. Just, I think, misjudged the braking zone there. Went straight off. This was earlier on, and then this was the Croc Promotions driver. This was Sam Woolley, who went off. And again, it's just those little mistakes. So yes, I may say that some of the British drivers are used to the wet conditions. Some of them aren't so used to the weather conditions here. So
you know how it goes. Every time we praise the drivers for their skills and talents in those conditions, something happens to them. So
commentators curse. It's a real thing.
It is, and every time he seems to catch us again. But Harrison Mackie, we lost him in the process, but he was being able to climb back a little bit. He's now in P13. And he keeps on climbing as I'm saying that. He's actually losing positions down to P18. So let's see what happens for Harrison Mackie, but he was starting from P4, and that mistake was indeed very costly.
Yes, indeed. Catherine Clark there now up into P2, has got past Sacha Van Bosch. Moving up, chopping and changing a little further back as they're still kicking off as well. Joey Brown having a good battle, I think, with Joseph Smith for P5. So Joey Brown back down the inside, Smith on the outside, not able to get that move done. Smith will have to fight back here, won't have the line in towards turn number 7. Through the little kink, down in towards turn 8. Again, very tricky little corner this one. But as the rest of the field go through, nice and calm. We're half race distance for the time being, only 8 laps this race. Here is a look at a replay. And no, there we go. No replay there, unfortunately. And so 3 laps in, back here, Freddie Lloyd leads. This is the battle for second place. Clark, Van Bosch. Lloyd is 3 seconds up the road.
What happened there in the process? But Freddie Lloyd, brilliant pace, he's able to carry.
Here's a replay. What happened here? Ah, this was the overtake. This was where your man Cathal Clark got past Sacha Van Bosch. So that was through turns number 10, just down that inside. Very commonplace that you see drivers make that move, isn't it? Just, yeah, tucking it in and getting it done. So nice to see.
Nice to see, and there was nothing to complain about between the 2 teammates, because remember, they're from the same team, and even though these are drivers, these are competitors going for their own scoring and performances at the end of the day, but once you're part of the same team, in those conditions, you want to go cautious and not to take too many risks, and this maneuver was clean and neat from Carl Clark on Sacha Van Bosch, but will he be able to try to catch up with Freddie Lloyd? Adapted very much, unfortunately for him, as round the inside goes the Croc Promotion driver, the 123, and there was a slight contact doing so.
Toby Gale and Joshua Smith there, Joshua Smith being the receiver of that one, but instantly fighting back. So anything you can do, I can do better. I'll take that position back, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Brilliantly made. He lost no time at all to respond. And because on that finish straight, it's very easy to be eaten alive with the slipstream. and the toe not quite working as efficiently as planned in those conditions. And all run inside.
Back through. Yeah.
And the ballet goes again, and there's another swap of positions.
Yeah, Toby Gale back down the inside. And again, puts his hand up and just says, thank you, I'll take that back again. As these two continue to battle away. You can imagine there, yeah, you see wiping of the visor. Now that brings me to my next question. Whatever happened to the windmills on the visors? Did you ever...
That's true.
Whatever happened to those?
I must say, I've never seen it in Belgium.
Oh, and off. Who's that? It's a Jamie Green, it's the 29, it's Isaac Phelps. And that's a disaster. How did that happen? Was that just too hot into the corner, or was he assisted?
There might be, we might need to see that again, but disaster for Isaac Phelps from Jamie Green. He was indeed climbing 8 places up into P9, and his run unfortunately ended quite prematurely in those conditions, but he was out in turn number 1. Could be a driver mistake, could be, as you said, a result of a slight contact. We didn't see anyone else involved, so it might have been brief. As we're back with the leaders, Freddie Lloyd, 2.7 seconds ahead of Cathal Clark, Sacha Van Bosch, and we have as well Zach Green down in P4 with the yellow crash helmet. This is, this is Joey Brown just for the back. Then we have Toby Gale, Joseph Smith, Louis Cumming, Morgan Moore, and John Helder running up the top 10.
Well, Zach Green was going to go for a move there on Sacha Van Bosch. Paposh went slightly wide through turn number 3, and I think Zach Green just thought, oh, I could potentially get my nose down the inside there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but again, that just shows that despite how big the gap you see is there, you know, there's still lunge distance between these drivers, but now Joey Brown is coming into play as well. Here is a replay. This is
Freddie Lloyd, or
it
leader.
is the race leader who has had a mistake.
God,
again.
It just did us Evan Gilter move.
Yeah, indeed. And it was just a lock of the rear axle, and round it went for Isaac Phelps. That's a big shame, but very easily done in these conditions.
He was very lucky not to get stuck into the gravel, actually, because there's not a lot of runoff area. You have the gravel and the wall on the outside of that turn number 1. He was able to get going again, but someone else might not have been as lucky.
Yes, indeed. We go on to the final lap then, and Freddie Lloyd leads by still 3 seconds, despite that little moment we just saw on a replay there. Just shows that he is still pushing it, despite the fact that he's miles ahead of anyone else. He's still trying to get the most out of this kart as he can. Going through turn 3 now, like you say, yeah, 3 seconds clear from Cathal Clark. Van Bosch still there a little further down in P3 from Zach Green, Brown, Gale, Smith, Kuman, Moore, Helder, Carter in P11. But eyes on this man here, Freddie Lloyd. It was a pretty decent start from the getaway. And yeah, it's kind of just maintained this one. And yeah, solid drive. I mean, God, look at the water that kicks up.
Solid drive indeed. Some might say that that little spin on the outside of turn number 4 was done for the sake of the camera, but he won't be happy with me saying that. But it was a good call, a good catch up by Freddie Lloyd. Demonstration of those beautiful driving skills of not only the British drivers but the French as well, with Gilter doing the same on the race before. It gives you a good impression of how difficult those conditions have been, and have been you know, worsening here in Mariembourg. In the meantime, the job was strong, and the result is as strong for Freddie Lloyd, the winner for the first time this weekend in front of Cathal Clark and Sacha Van Bosch. The checkered flag is waving, welcoming the rescapees of this qualifying heat, and luckily we do have pretty much everybody on board except for Harrison Mackie, who went back into the pits and is nowhere to be seen at the end of this race. The penultimate race of the morning. We have one more to go for the junior category with A versus D, and then it would be about time to have a quick lunch break before the rest of the schedule, as we're running a bit slightly for the back out of schedule due to the conditions and the change of compounds, as early morning we went from dry to wet race, so apologies for the slight delay into proceedings, as we will be back after the last race at 2 local time for the rest of the proceedings. A lot of 12 races remaining on the schedule after the one coming up next. And at the end of the day, we'll have a proper intermediate classification, to which we'll need to add the superheat of tomorrow morning before the finals.
Yes, indeed. There is still plenty of racing left to go. Here's a look then at the provisional classifications at the end of qualifying Heat B and C for Junior X30. I say Lloyd from Clark, Van Bosch from Green, Brown, Gale, Smith, Kuman and Moore. Helder rounding out the top 10. from Draverne, who finishes in P11. Henry Carter then into P12 from Isaac Phelps. Jean-Paul Carras and Romeo Russell running at the top 15 for the Victory Lake karting team.
Then we have another disappointing result, I'm sure up to its standards, for Sandro Perez that we had in the interview earlier this morning.